Dbacks offense and pitching did their job in the series finale and stomped out the LA Angels.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about the Dbacks handling business in their series finale. We'll grade the offseason moves because why not? I thought it'd be a fun Friday podcast thing to do. And then we'll talk about the Dbacks need to beat the White Sox. We'll talk about that in segment number 3. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now let's talk about that series finale for the Dbacks as they stomped out the Angels 11-1. And it was a great showing for the Dbacks, watching them handle their business, because we, as always, have questions about the Dbacks, the character of this team. Are they ever going to live up to their expectations? We saw in game number 2 against the Angels how the Dbacks got absolutely clobbered. Slade was terrible. The offense didn't show up. We were asking ourselves, are the D-backs going to lose 2 out of 3 games to one of the worst teams in the American League in the LA Angels? Or are they going to step up and respond in a big way in the series finale and take this series by the throat? And that's what the D-backs did. Their pitching by Brandon Pfaadt was fantastic, and their offense led by Christian Walker and Jock Peterson was also amazing. Christian Walker, home run in the 9th inning of game 2, 2 more home runs in his first 2 at-bats in game number 3. That means 3 straight at-bats with a home run for Christian Walker, who has now 15 home runs on the season, 4 RBI night for Christian Walker. His slash line now is 258, 341, 480 slugging. And then for Jock Peterson, 5 RBI night for him, including a grand salami in the 7th inning. D-backs offense looked really good. 9 hits. That's always the magic number that we're looking for. The D-backs offense can get at least 9 hits. We feel like they're in position to win a game, especially like we always say, when this D-backs team doesn't strike out, that's when their offense is at their absolute best. 6 walks to 5 Ks for this offense. You absolutely love to see that. We got to see some steals by Corbin Carroll, Kevin Newman, some monster extra base hits by Jock, Christian Walker, of course, with the home runs. Ketel, Newman, Moreno all had doubles. Those 2 Christian Walker home runs were absolutely crushed. When you look at the exit velo on them, that the one in the 3rd inning, 113 miles off the bat, and it went 464 feet. He roped it into the left gap, and left center gap. And then the other home run by Christian Walker in the 1st inning, 107 miles off the bat, 404 feet. The one by Jock Peterson, 107 miles off the bat, 430 feet. Absolutely crushed balls by those 2 in the lineup. Great to see Gabby Moreno do a little bit of work for the D-backs at the bottom of the lineup. Once he starts heating up, with the rest of the team starting to turn around, with the Corbin Carroll starting to turn it around, and the Lourdes Gurriel starting to turn it around, all they're missing now is a Gabriel Moreno, and then this offense can really go to the next level because Carroll's starting to look better, Gurriel's starting to look better. If you get Moreno starting to play better with the way Ketel Marte has played all season, with the peaks that Christian Walker has showed this season. He's always going to produce power numbers. He's been fantastic. Jock Pearson has been good. Randall Grichuk has been good. Jake McCarthy has been valuable. Like all of a sudden, that's 6, 7 guys that I just named where you feel really good about. Kevin Newman, he had 3 hits in the finale. Now his slash line is 278, 309, 392. So the way this D-backs offense is clicking right now, with the way the schedule is shaping up over the next couple weeks, very formidable for this offense to do some damage against some of the upcoming opponents. Love to see that this D-backs offense is finally starting to click, finally starting to heat up, getting those strings of hits together and putting the crooked numbers on the board. We'd love to see that. D-backs 4 for 8 with runners in scoring position. And then the pitching, really good for the D-backs. We were asking on yesterday's podcast, can Brandon Pfaadt step up? He is currently the ace in the rotation with all the injuries, with Jordan Montgomery not living up to the contract. Brandon Pfaadt is the ace. And you know what aces do? They're a great reset in your rotation. Whenever your team is struggling, you rely on your ace to get you out of the slump and deliver a big win. That's what the D-backs needed from Brandon Pfaadt. They needed him to deliver a big win with the injuries to the rotation, with the spot starters, the Slades, the Ryan Nelsons all struggling, with the Montes not being able to step up. The D-backs desperately needed a really good Brandon Pfaadt start, to the point where they're like, you know what? You're finishing this 6th inning. We're going to allow you to go over 100 pitches. Torey Lovello had the opportunity with 5 2/3 outs when Brandon Pfaadt puts that second runner on to take him out the game and go to your bullpen. No, they said, Brandon Pfaadt, you're going to pitch over 100 innings and you're going to finish the 6th inning and get the quality start. And that's what happened to Pfaadt. He was able to finish the 6th, 1 earned run allowed, 8 strikeouts. Really good performance by him. The Angels did do a good job of making Pfaadt work. He threw a lot of pitches in almost every inning, but Pfaadt did a great job, I thought, of, again, command, control. I think he's really doing an elite job of hitting the edges of the strike zone and hitting his target. Pfaadt was fantastic. Kevin Ginkel came in the 7th when it was still a close game. Ginkel is pitching really well right now. He seems to be hitting his stride and finding his groove, hitting 98 on the radar gun. Hitting 98 on the radar gun. I think this is the best Kevin Ginkel that we've seen all season long. I think he's finally found his stride once again, because I think that closer role at the beginning of the year with Sewald out really messed up Ginkel's flow. He's not a closer. He's a setup man, 7th inning guy, and I think he looks way more comfortable in the role he's in now. Ryan Thompson, of course, fantastic, sub-1 ERA. Then Paul Sewald, of course, a 10-run game, but Sewald hadn't pitched since June 6th, so Torey Lovello want to get him some run. Make sure you knock off a little rust in case we do need him in a big save in the next series or two. So great job by the D-backs overall. It was a big character question going into the finale. What were the D-backs going to do? Were they going to fold in the finale and just prove to us that this team just does not have it this year? You should not trust the makeup of the squad. Or were they going to step up and be like, no, you know what? We are going to turn this season around eventually. And this is going to be one of the series that prove to you guys that we're still a team that you can't take lightly in the wild card race. And they ended up doing the latter. Is that the correct way to use that phrase? I'm not sure. But they ended up showing up in a big way. 11 runs, great start by Brandon Pfaadt. And now they have to do it once again. The Chicago White Sox against the Chicago White Sox up next. And we'll discuss that in segment number 3. But first, I want to discuss and grade the D-backs offseason in segment number 2. But hey, if you need any tax help, then why not use our friends at Tax Network? Because here on Locked On Diamondbacks, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. You know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. That's 1 billion with a B. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. It's a Friday podcast, so let's do something fun and grade the D-backs offseason moves. We are more than a third into this season. We got more than a 60-game sample size. We're a couple months away from the All-Star break. We might do this topic again at the All-Star break. But so far, I think we got a good vibe of the dudes who the D-backs brought in. I don't have the grades from the offseason podcast because I have to go through and scrub through every podcast to see what I graded each move. But let's actually grade them for you guys here today about how we feel about these guys. You know, what are we, like 60 plus games into the season, almost 70 games into the season? It was like game 68 or something for the D-backs today. Let's grade the offseason moves and see how we feel about it today. And I'll give you my thoughts on how I feel about it, how I felt about the moves at the time in the offseason. We'll start with the big guy, Eugenio Suarez. At this point in the season, I think I have to grade the move a D. Eugenio Suarez has been downright bad for the D-backs. 197 average, 575 OPS. Entering tonight's game against the LA Angels. After tonight's game against the LA Angels, 195 average, 267 OBP, 309 slugging. Eugenio Suarez was brought in to be an upgrade over third base last year, expected to provide some pop, some defense, and he has done none of that. In the offseason, I definitely would have graded the move probably a B+, probably an A-. I was really high on Eugenio. I was like, listen, I know his offensive struggles. I know the flaws in his game. I know he strikes out a ton, but as long as he could come in, hit 25 to 30 home runs, strike out 180 times, I'm fine with that. Just driving runs, hit bombs, and I don't care if you strike out in the scenario as long as you're producing power numbers. But he has not produced any power. The offense has been abysmal, and because of it, I have to grade the move at this point of the season a D. How about Jock Peterson, the star of the night in the finale against the Angels with a grand slam and 5 ribbies? The Jock Peterson move, I would grade it a strong B+, borderline A-. Might only be a B+ just because he's a DH and he can only play so often, but he has been as good as you would want for a dude who's only playing so often. 286 average, 384 OBP, 503 slugging. I would love a few more home runs, but he is providing power in the extra base category. He's producing incredible quality at bats and plate appearances. Like, Jock Peterson is a professional at the plate. I trust him in clutch situations. He had just been a really strong offense player for the D-backs in the middle of the lineup. We thought he was just going to be like a nice little complimentary piece. No, Jock Peterson has been a pivotal piece in the middle of the D-backs lineup, and I think he has been an underrated addition of all the free agent moves this past offseason for all the major league teams. So Jock Peterson, I'm giving that a B+ right now. Jordan Montgomery, a very polarizing guy right now because he's had some ups and downs this season. Like, his ERA right now, 6.58, looks terrible, but I don't think he's been as bad as that all year. It's really been how he's pitched recently, but recently is when the D-backs rotation has been the most down bad. It's been when the D-backs rotation has been the most desperate for good Jordan Montgomery, and Montgomery has not been able to deliver. He has a 1.673 whip. He has 11.8 hits per 9. He's not striking out, folks. He's given up a pretty decent walk rate as well. I think you have to give the Jordan Montgomery signing a D right now because Jordan Montgomery, highest paid D-back right now, coming off the World Series where he beat Arizona. We thought he was going to come in and be an immediate contributor. Of course, he lost his spring training because he's a Scott Boras client and he waited till the final day before the regular season to sign with the team. But even with that being said, He is 10 starts in. He should be better than this at this point of the year. We're paying him a lot of money. The injury is really down bad, and he is not delivering. This should be the point of the year where he's stepping up and looking like the guy that's getting paid 25 million a year or whatever he's making. But instead, he is not living up to the contract, and he has really hurt the D-backs in a couple of these games. Again, I don't think the season's as bad as the 6.58 year rate, but he can definitely be a lot better. We need him to be leaps and bounds better because he's expected to be potentially the number 3 starter with how the rotation is shaken up right now. He's at best the number 4 starter behind Gallen, Kelly, and Fott when the rotation's fully healthy. Then who knows? If Erod comes back and dominates, maybe Monty's the number 5 starter. But still have faith in the big boy to turn around his season, but would like to see him maybe get a little bit leaner because I think that could potentially help him out as an athlete. The Jordan Montgomery, I think I said D before. I'm giving it a C, actually. Eugenio's a D. Jordan Montgomery, I'll give a C. If you want to say C minus, that's fine. I don't do C minuses. I'll just leave it as a C. Randall Grichuk, I'm giving that signing a B plus, just like a Jock Peterson. Can only play so often, but really fantastic when he does. Grichuk this year has been incredible for the D-backs. 313 average, 364 OBP, 475 slug, and an 838 OPS. Just so important to this team offensively. Has done everything from a versatility standpoint when it comes to playing DH, when it comes to playing in the outfield, when it comes to being a pinch hitter, when it comes to being a professional and sitting on the bench right after you almost hit for the cycle. Like Grichuk has had to swallow his pride and ego at times for the sake of this team. And the team isn't even that good. So that's a lot for Randall Grichuk. I respect him a ton. He has really been a way better offense player than I would have expected. Never had, when he was in Colorado, I was never like, oh, that's a really important piece for Colorado out there. I thought he was like a solid piece, but he was always kind of middling to me. He's way better than I would have expected. He's been a great bargain bin signing and really a really underrated, under the radar move by the D-backs. So Grichuk, fantastic signing. Him and Jock Peterson, I think, have both been a B plus. Eugenio D, Jordan Montgomery C, then Erod TBD for now because he is yet to debut for the D-backs. He has been hurt all season long, and so right now he is a TBD till we see him pitch for Arizona. Now we'll talk about the D-backs potentially beating the Chicago White Sox in segment number 3. And if you plan on buying any tickets for the D-backs White Sox series, then the place you're going to want to go is, of course, Game Time, because Game Time is the best place for last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy theater, and more. Flash deals save you even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals save you even more when you choose a section and you let Game Time choose the seats. All-in pricing shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. That's why you have to use Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Let's talk about the D-backs and their upcoming series against the Chicago White Sox, because as we've discussed, this upcoming schedule for the D-backs is mighty tasty, and it gives them a chance to really climb in the NL wildcard race. You got the White Sox next, then you got the Nationals after them. Phillies is tough. Then you got the Twins, who are in the wildcard race right now in the American League, but I'm not scared of the Twins. And then you got the A's after that to end the month. And so really the Phillies are the only series that scares me for the rest of the month. And you got two very winnable series against the White Sox and Nationals up next, with the White Sox up first. And this is, again, one of those series where you look at the matchup on paper and you say, if the D-backs are as good as we think the D-backs can be with the talent that they have on paper, going against one of the worst teams in recent memory, you could say, in the Chicago White Sox, who are by far the worst team in Major League Baseball right now. If we really believe in the D-backs, they have to handle their business against the Chicago White Sox. I don't think teams need a sweep, but a sweep here would feel really good if you're a D-backs fan. The White Sox are absolutely atrocious ball club right now. They are the worst offense and pitching staff by a mile in the American League. And it's actually really disgusting when you look at the numbers. The pitching right now, the White Sox have given up the second most home runs in the American League. They are dead last in ERA. Opponent batting average, they are dead last in that stat as well. That's just their pitching stats. If you look at their offensive stats, dead last in average, dead last in OPS, dead last in runs scored. Like, there's not a lot of redeeming qualities when it comes to this Chicago White Sox team. You look up and down their lineup, not a lot of guys who are having themselves fantastic seasons. Luis Roberts, probably the only guy that you have to respect and be afraid of. But to be honest, if you want to just intentionally walk him every single at bat, you could do that and then probably be fine going against the rest of the Chicago White Sox team, because there were just not a lot to talk about right now. Their biggest free agent signing in franchise history was Andrew Benintendi, and he is one of maybe two players having a worse season than Eugenio Suarez. He's probably the only guy in Major League Baseball that would he's probably the only guy in Major League Baseball you could trade Eugenio Suarez for right now, which is crazy to say. The White Sox are down bad as an organization. This should be a series where the D-backs take advantage and handle their business against the White Sox. If they lose this series, this will be a black mark on their season, and it will be the first line in their resume if they miss out on the playoffs. You'd be like, dang, you lost to the Chicago White Sox back in June when the White Sox were beating nobody. The D-backs need to win this series, and preferably, I'm not a sweep guy, but I think this is an opportunity where the D-backs should sweep the Chicago White Sox. And you look at the pitching matchups, you got Ryan Nelson game one. Anything can happen, but he's going against a Chris Flexen, who has not been good this year for the White Sox. In game two, Eric Fede, he's been good for the White Sox. TBD for the D-backs, as they might have to go a bullpen game in that one. But let's just say the D-backs win the first two games of the series. You know who's in the finale with a chance to deliver a big sweep for the D-backs? Jordan Montgomery. As we always say with every Monty start, it feels like it's a chance for him to prove himself and ingratiate himself to D-backs fans. A sweep against this lowly White Sox team is as low of a rung they can clear, but it's something that Monty needs to do. The D-backs can wake up Monday after a nice weekend against the White Sox and look at the standings and say, you know what? Look at us owning the third wild card spot. Because as it currently stands, the D-backs are still right there in the race, but they're on the outside looking in, a game back of that third wild card spot. I want to see the D-backs be in the wild card. I want to wake up. I want to go to work and say, you know what? Look at the standings, Dodger friends. The D-backs are in the playoffs right now. Obviously, it's still so early. So many things are going to change by the end of the season, but I would much rather see the D-backs in the playoffs holding on to a wild card spot than not. So Jordan Montgomery, if he has the opportunity to deliver a big series sweep, he needs to do it in the finale. I want to see this D-backs offense continue this offensive onslaught that they've been on in terms of racking up hits and at least creating a whole lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position up and down the lineup. Everyone has been better recently. Marte has been great. Walker has been great. Peterson, they've been great all season, but the stars that have been struggling are finally starting to wake up. Gurriel, Carroll, now Moreno showing signs of life with the Jig McCarthy's and the Blazes and the Kevin Newmans and the Perdomos contributing here and there. We're finally starting to see a full D-backs offense, something that we haven't seen since the first couple weeks of the 2024 season. It's finally nice to see this D-backs offense showing signs of life again and going against one of the worst pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. We need to see this D-backs offense continue to keep it going. And one guy that wants to keep it going is Gabriel Moreno. I think it's a great series for him to keep it going. Keep getting those quality at bats together. I think Gabby right now at the plate is looking really good in terms of his approach, the type of pitches he's attacking. I think Gabby looks really comfortable at the plate right now. I think his numbers are going to steadily increase over the next couple months because I think Gabby's offense is starting to pick up, and I want to see it continue in this next series against the Chicago White Sox. So hopefully the D-backs can do more than just get a series win. Hopefully they can get a series sweep against one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball in the Chicago White Sox. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, wait. Don't come back tomorrow. Come back next week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.